Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the State Police exhibit here at the New York State Fair. I now draw your attention to the portable dive tank as we proudly present our SCUBA demonstration.
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing out here? Good? All right. Welcome to the State Police exhibit, and in particular to the dive demonstration from the underwater recovery team. I'm Sergeant Tom Barton. I work down in Albany in the Office of Special Operations. I got a nice cushy office down there. These are the guys that do the work out in the field for us. To my right is Trooper Tom Manny. Tom is assigned to the Troop G team down in Albany. He works at the Capitol, protecting the governor. Anybody else that works there? Back here is Trooper Greg Eberl. Greg is the team leader here in the Troop D area of Central New York. And the star of the show for you today in the tank is Trooper Jared Hogan, also referred to as Little Fella. Jared is also assigned to the Troop G team, and he works out of the station up in Alexandria Bay up on the St. Lawrence River. Now, what we're going to do here for you today is give you a little bit of information about our equipment and what we do and how we do it. Now, you think of diving as kind of a relaxing sport, recreational sport. You go down to the Caribbean, you dive in the nice blue, clear water down there. You see a couple hundred feet, you see a lot of fish. This is what we dive in. This is Mohawk River water. So this is what we dive in, and if you close your eyes real tight, that's what we see underwater, all right? Now, if you stick around to the end of the show, Tom's gonna drink some of this for us, so stick around. Now, a little bit about the equipment that we use. What Jared has on is SCUBA equipment. Now, SCUBA isn't actually a word, it's an acronym. Does anybody know what SCUBA stands for? There we go, right up on top, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. Now, water is an inhospitable environment. Man isn't supposed to be underwater. We don't live down there, so we have to take all our life-sustaining gear with us, and that's what Jared has on. He's wearing a wetsuit. A wetsuit is neoprene rubber. That's what keeps us warm while we're diving. It actually lets a layer of water in against our bodies. Our body heats that water up, and that's what keeps us warm. Now, on his back is his air source. Now, in this case, this is a 100 cubic foot steel tank. It holds about as much air as in a normal household closet. This is pressurized to a little over 3,400 pounds per square inch, and it's in the bottle on Jared's back. Now, this air comes out at the top by a two-stage regulator system. The first stage is attached to the top of the bottle. The second stage of that regulator is in Jared's mouth. Now, this is called an on-demand system. He simply takes a breath in, air comes out of the bottle. When he exhales, those are the bubbles you see going to the surface. Now, around his torso, around his upper body, he's wearing a buoyancy compensator vest, or a BCD. Now, with the controls in his left hand there, with a push of a button, compressed air comes out of that tank, goes into that BC, and just like a balloon, it inflates. It'll take him to the surface. It makes him buoyant. When he pushes another button, the air comes out of that vest. He's got a weight belt around his waist. I don't know, because he had a big, huge Gianelli sausage for lunch, so he probably doesn't need that weight belt. Then he'll go right back down to the bottom. Now, what any diver wants to accomplish while you're diving, whether it be us or recreational diving, you want to obtain neutral buoyancy. That's neither rising nor falling in the water column. So that's what Jared's doing right here for you right now. He can sit right there in the center of that tank. He's just floating, suspended there. When you first start diving, it actually takes quite a bit of practice to get good at this, but this makes it easiest for us to swim. We're not dragging along the bottom, and of course we're not going to the surface. Right? Makes it easy to swim. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is his face mask on his face. This does a couple of things for us. When we can see underwater, this allows our eyes to focus because it keeps the water away from our pupil. But the other thing it does for us is it affords a little bit of protection from some of the things we run into down there. Like I said, there's a lot of particles in the water. We can't see very well, so we run into all sorts of things at the bottom of these lakes and rivers. We run into old shopping carts, bicycles, re-rod from old bridges. Anything that anybody throws in the water, we'll run into down there. What will often happen is the guys will be swimming along and actually run into a tree branch, and it'll tear the mask right off their face. Now, when they're in novice dive school, at the beginning of their training, they're taught to solve their problems underwater. We may be down 100 feet and not be able to go to the surface, clear our mask out, put it back on, and get everything all set. So Jared's going to perform a mask clearing technique for you. He's going to take his mask off, and he's going to put it back on, and he's going to have to clear the water. Yeah, you got to take the mask off. He hates doing that, but I promised him a snow cone after the show, if you get it. So he's going to put his mask back on, and what he's going to do, he's going to hold the top of the mask to his forehead. He's going to exhale through his nose, and that air coming out will actually displace the water. And if you watch closely, you can watch the water drain right out of his mask. He gets a good seal on his face, and he can continue with his dive. All right, now, that's a little bit about the gear we use, a little bit about the scuba gear we use. We use a lot of other gear to perform our search patterns. Now, when we get called as a team, generally we get called for a specific item. We show up, we set up search patterns, we set a dive plan, we go in, we search for it, we recover the item, we bring it out, and we're done. But in this case, we're going to demonstrate several different techniques for you. So we're going to have a little scenario. And that is that we've got an armed robbery suspect that just committed armed robbery. He stole a watch off a guy on the street out here, State Fair Boulevard. He's speeding away from the scene in a car. He's going a little too fast. He's probably texting, loses control, and he runs into the lake, sinks to the bottom of the lake. That's the best part of the show. All right, so now we've got this scene. The underwater recovery team receives a call. The dive team leader puts together a detail of divers from around the state. We show up. Now, in this instance, we have 4 things we're going to look for. What are they going to be? Somebody give me one of them. What's that? We're gonna look for the driver, right? Watch. We're gonna look for the watch that was stolen.
Car.
We're gonna look for the car. And what's the last thing?
The person.
We're gonna look for the weapon that he used. In this case, this was a gun. That's the 4 things we're gonna look for underwater. What's the easiest thing we're gonna look for? The car is gonna be the easiest thing to find, right? Now, like I said, if this is the water that we're diving into, what is he gonna be able to see when he gets to the bottom? Nothing. So he may use something like this to find a large metallic item underwater. This is an underwater handheld sonar device. There's a headset that comes off of this that attaches to the diver's head. And what this does is it emits an acoustical signal. In other words, it sends out a sound wave. It bounces off the target and comes back. The diver hears the tone in his earpiece, knows that he has a target, and he swims toward it. Hopefully that's our car. So Jared's going to find our car for us. And what's he going to do? What's the first thing he's going to do when he finds the car? What's he going to be looking for? The person. Right, we're going to want to get the person out. So he's going to pull that person out. He's going to bring that guy to the surface. He's giving him a little air. That's nice of him. I don't think that's going to work a whole lot. So we got the person out. Next, we're going to go down, and we're going to look for the watch that he stole. Okay, we're going to get that back. Now, that's a smaller object. It's still a metallic object. It probably fell into the mud at the bottom. So we're going to take down one of these. Anybody know what this is? This is an underwater metal detector. The diver takes this right down with him. There's also a headset that attaches to his head. He sweeps this along, back and forth along the bottom of the lake until he hits a metal object, then he reaches down and finds out what that is. In this case, Jared's going to find our watch for us. Now in this case also, this is a piece of evidence, it's stolen property. So he's not going to want to just bring that up and hand it off to one of the other divers. He's going to actually bag it up in an evidence bag. Now he's going to want to keep some of the water that he found, that it was found in, inside the bag. Do you know why we do that? to preserve the evidence. What happens when you take a metallic object out of the water? It rusts. And when it rusts, it's going to ruin any of the evidence that may be on that piece. So we're going to want to keep it in the water and bag it up in an evidence bag. Now, he's going to go back down again, and we're going to look for the weapon. We're going to look for the gun that he used in the robbery. Now, in this case, we're going to use a much simpler method to search. It's a tried and true method we've been using for years. This is simply called a jack-stay search. Now, this is a rope. It's got a weight at each end. He's going to stretch this line out along the bottom of the lake. The diver is going to swim along this line with one hand on the line, sweeping the other hand back and forth along the bottom of the lake looking for that gun. When he reaches the other end, he's going to move the weight in one direction. He's going to turn around and swim back in the same fashion, always keeping one hand on the line, looking for the gun with his other hand. Now, he'll continue in this fashion, moving one weight at a time across the bottom of the lake until he finds what we're looking for. So there's the gun. So that's another piece of evidence that we're going to want to bag up in an evidence bag and bring carefully to the surface. Or not. I guess maybe not today.
It's a water gun.
All right. So we've got 3 of the items. What do we got left to do?
Car.
We got to get the car out. Now, Jared's a tough guy. Works out in the gym. I don't think he's going to be able to go down to the bottom of the lake, pick up this car, and bring it up, hand it to the tow truck operator. I don't think he's going to be able to do that. So, we're going to use a little assistance. And that's by the use of one of these. This is a lift bag. Now, the lift bag that Jared would actually be using in there would be quite a bit bigger. This is a 50-pound lift bag. This would be used for maybe a small safe, something of that nature. Jared would probably use a couple of 2,000-pound lift bags, attach them to the car to bring it up. Now, he's going to use our portable lift bag in the tank here. He's going to take a little bit of air out of the tank on his back by the use of his regulator. He's going to put some air in that lift bag. And as that air expands, it's going to make it buoyant. And just like his BC on his back, or that balloon, it's going to rise to the surface. Now, the idea is to start it very slowly, because as that approaches the surface, the air is going to continue to expand, and it will start to move faster and faster through the water. So right there, he starts it nice and slow, goes up all by itself, and that's how lift bags work. That's how we get heavy objects all the bottom. Very good. Good job. All right. So that's a little bit about how we do our searches and how we recover things from the bottom. What's the problem? You out of air? No, you're not out of air. Your break time? Break time? You got a break. And you're hungry. All right. I told him he could have a snack. He was late for work. He could have a snack. But he can't come out of the tank because we don't have time for that. So we got, I got a banana. They're good? Nice healthy snack. Anybody want to feed the diver? You want to feed the diver? Why don't you come on up? You had your hand up first. Right up there. Turn around. Let everybody see how good looking you are. What's your name?
Alex.
Alex, where are you from?
Syracuse.
Right here in Syracuse. You enjoying the day at the fair?
Yeah.
Do you play baseball or basketball?
I play just baseball.
Baseball. You think you can throw this banana up to feed the diver for us? Let's give it a shot. Come on over. Right over in here. Give a toss right up in there. See if you can get in there first try. You got an arm. Nice shot, Alex. That was a nice throw. We got another one? He said sorry. Good shot, Alex. You want to try an apple? Last throw. 5 for $1. That's gonna taste good. Toss it right up in there. Last try. All right, way to go. Good job, Alex. Good job. Thanks very much. All right, well, Jared's having a snack. A little bit about our team. The State Police Dive Team was founded back in 1932. That was our first dive. It was for a piece of evidence that we needed out of the water. Back then it was guys that were already previously Navy trained. We also used equipment, it was called heavy suit. Anybody see the movie Men of Honor? The big heavy brass helmets and canvas suits? That's what we used back then, surface supply air. And we used that up until about 1960. Now in 1960 we adopted SCUBA, which is what we have now. SCUBA was invented in 1943 by a couple of Frenchmen. Does anybody know who that was? Who invented SCUBA? One guy's name, right, Jacques Cousteau, I just heard it. One guy's name was Jacques Cousteau, and the other guy's name was Emile Gagnon. Everybody heard of that guy? And nobody's heard of that guy. Jacques took all the fame and fortune and ran with it. Now, back in 1957, we started our own training program. Prior to that, we used to send our divers down to the Navy training base down in Bayonne, New Jersey for all the dive training. In 57, we started doing our own training. We trained all of our own divers up till today. Now, if a trooper wants to be a member of our team, you have to be a trooper for 2 years, and he applies to our team. We put him through a 3-day assessment course. Anybody that passes that is a candidate for our school, and we select 15 to 20 candidates to go in our school that we have about every 3 years. Now, once the school starts, the school is 7 weeks long to begin with. We also have another week back in the next winter for ice dive training, but it's 7 continuous weeks. During the first 2 to 3 weeks, we lose about 40% of our candidates, wash out and don't graduate. Now, once they graduate, they go out to their teams. We have 65 divers statewide. It's split up into 8 different teams across the state. There's 8 divers on each team. And we bring them back, like I said, the next winter for ice dive training. We dive year-round. These guys, other than the team leaders in the troop that are full-time, the divers have other assignments. They're either assigned to the road or some other assignment that they have going on, but they're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year round. Jared, you ready? All right, we're going to move on to a little bit more of our equipment that's developed over the years. I mentioned the wetsuit before that Jared has on. This is the suit we use most often. Everybody know what this is offhand? This is a dry suit. So this keeps us dry.
It's the black suit you wear.
Right, it's the black suit we wear. You know how you could tell? It's black. Ah.
And I got in it for last year.
You got in this last year? Well, that explains something. So what we do is we get in this. This is a watertight zipper. Your partner zips you into this. It's like getting into a Ziploc bag. This keeps you dry, all except for where your face sticks out. Now, this in particular keeps us away from any of the contaminants that's in the water, except for our face. Because as you can see, if Jared wore one of those other face masks, the water would get at our face and we'd be contaminated, our skin would get contaminated. So we put on one of these. This is a full face mask. Jared just put it on in the tank. This gives us a couple different things. This keeps our face dry, so we are fully encapsulated. In other words, we're completely dry, and it keeps us away from any of the hazardous materials that are in the water. When we get out of the water, we simply wash the suit off, and then we can get undressed. The other thing it does is it affords us the ability of communications, underwater communications. So we have set up in the tank here our underwater, through water communications. We're going to see if Jared has anything to say to us. Hey, Jared, you hear us in there?
I read you loud and clear.
All right, get any famous words for the crowd?
I know anybody knows any jokes out there. A joke.
A joke? What, are you bored? Everybody know a joke they want to tell Jared? You got a joke for him? Come on here. Jump right down. So, what's your name?
Jameson.
Jameson. Where are you from?
Hilton.
From where?
Hilton.
Hilton. You enjoying your day at the fair?
Maybe so. Maybe.
Undecided? What's your favorite part of the fair?
This.
There you go. Round of applause. He just won. Okay, Jameson, come here. You forgot the joke. Work with me here, boy. Work with me. A riddle. Okay, come on up. Let's see if he knows it. Is it okay? I don't know. You tell me if it's okay. Okay, ready?
What do you call a wish at the beach? A sandwich.
Very good. Wish, sandwich. Yes, witch at the beach. You didn't really have to explain it to me. I got it. I love it when the kids explain their jokes to me afterwards. Sometimes I actually have to have them explain it to me. But... All right. A couple other things before we get done here. Now, we've gone to the dry suit, and I've gone through the full face mask that helps protect us. One step further we can go from there is this. This is used in conjunction with our surface supplied air. This is a Kirby Morgan Model 17B helmet. We also use the Model 37 on our dive teams. Basically, we get the diver in their dry suit. We hook them up to the surface supply air, which goes to this helmet. And that gives us an added measure of safety, because once we get that helmet on that guy, it's not coming off. Now, if he gets trapped at the bottom for any reason, it's surface supply air. In other words, the surface is up here, kind of like we did back in 1932 with the heavy suits. We can just keep pumping air down to him until we can get him out. It also affords us quite a bit of protection from head injury. So we use this in any situation where we might have a penetration dive, such as a wreck underwater. If we have to go inside a sunken wreck to get anybody out or get something out of it, or if we go into a cave or any overhead situation like ice. We use it quite a bit in the wintertime. We'll cut a hole in the ice, we'll put the guys in this suit with the helmet, and they'll go under the ice and do the surge patterns. And anybody that's ever hit their head on the bottom side of the ice, it's a bad day. So, that's a little bit more about some of our other equipment we use. Now, we do most of our work underwater, but we do get calls for surface emergencies. So in other words, we have boats that are dedicated for surface support. We have 4 airboats. Everybody know what an airboat is? It's basically one of those swamp boats, flat bottom swamp boats, driven by a propeller, used down in the Everglades. We have 4 of those airboats around the state. And in conjunction with our inflatable Zodiacs, we'd get deployed to any flooding conditions or swiftwater rescue conditions. So we were deployed during Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Irene, Tropical Storm Lee, anything that comes up here that may create quite a bit of flooding where evacuation and rescue might be needed. We would deploy a team and wait for the storm to hit in case we're needed. Also, since the depletion of our Marine Patrol several years ago, any water emergency that happens around the state, or any really any water calls that happen, usually involves our team. For example, we had a dignitary support role a couple of weeks ago. The governor took a ride down the Hudson River. We trailed the boat in one of our boats with his protection unit all the way to New York City. So we do a lot of not Marine Patrol, but Marine emergency response. So we have quite a bit of responsibility around the waterways around the state of New York. So that's a little bit about what we do and how we do it. If anybody's got any questions when we get done here, come on up. We'll be around for a while. We'll answer any questions you have. And before you leave the area, please visit the Troopers Foundation booth at the end of this building. They have clothing and collectibles. Also, our interactive booth, our interactive displays across the sidewalk here. We've got our dive boat over there, some other things going on. The canine demonstration is coming up next. Stick around for that and enjoy the rest of the day fair. If anybody would like to come up and play a game of tic-tac-toe with Jared, line up and he'll have a game with you.